So good afternoon, Cook County School District and community. You are now tuned in to the Cook County School District Fireside Chat. I'm Dr. Sarah Johnson. I'm the superintendent of Cook County. And tonight we have a little different format. We are not gathered in one room, we're gathered on Zoom. So let me just pass it off to Dr. Hoff to say hello and to greet you this afternoon.
Yeah, we are changing it up just out of making sure everyone is safe. I think what is our slogan? Stay safe, stay open. So we're trying to take as many measures as we can to do that. So this is normally where we'd introduce our curriculum director, Stacy Smith, and our communications director, Jason Carr. But don't worry, they are on the Zoom and making sure we cover everything we're supposed to talk about. And we have a special guest. Dr. Johnson, I'm gonna let you introduce our special guest.
So at our board meeting last week, we had a new school become formally recognized with the name. So I'm pleased tonight to invite Johnny Olkers, who is the lead of that school. And Johnny, would you like to come on and say something to the people who are tuning in to find out more about the Grizzly Mountain Home Link?
Yeah, it's great to be on the Fireside Chat again. And we have officially named our formerly the Homeschool Partner Program is now going to be known as Grizzly Mountain Home Link. And we have an enrollment right around 245, 250. And we're just really excited about all the opportunities that just keep presenting themselves for our program and the kids in our program. And we picked out some school colors and presented a name to the board on Monday, and they approved it. So it's pretty exciting for us.
And I have to say that Johnny's being kind of humble. You can see there that the mascot that actually was created by the founder of the school, which you can see in the background, there's our own Grizzly Mountain right up to the, I guess it's to the north of Prineville, and then the grizzly bear that Johnny secured and made belong to Cook County. So we're pretty excited the way those come to overlay and that awesome mascot that you have for Grizzly Mountain Home Link. Lots of exciting things going on at Grizzly Mountain Home Link, and I just have to say that Johnny Olkers is certainly a dynamic leader for that. You can see he's on a bus right now. He's also a soccer coach. So, and he coaches a few other things, but yeah, Johnny's doing some fun things up there. So Johnny, tell me just your two most exciting things that you've done with Grizzly Mountain Home Link so far.
Oh man, I don't know. I mean,
can you pick two?
It's, you know, some of the things that I'm most excited about right now, I don't know if they'll be the biggest two, but the two that come to mind, you can see in those pictures there, we're having kids in the building twice a week right now. There's opportunities to come in and kind of get some social interaction with other kids their age, play some games in the gym up at Barnes Butte, and do some science. Those two little girls you see right there, or those two big girls there. This week we did a STEAM challenge in addition to PE, and so we try to do things like we had an egg drop competition at the stadium. So, you know, we try to do big science projects that are sort of useful at every age group, and that, you know, the content can get more complex. So those two girls, those are boats they built, and we quantified how much buoyancy they were able to produce in their boat by throwing pennies on top of them. And so, you know, I think we had one kid who built a boat that could hold 84 pennies. And so they do some science, they do some PE. That's just one little aspect of our program, but that's been really fun lately. We're just today, the idea came out about, you know, we're going to start a leadership class for the middle school age kids in our program. And so, you know, it's sort of like Google Suite, you know, like everybody was using Microsoft Word, PowerPoint, and Google came out with this new product and it's been around for 10 years, but people are just really starting to get good with it. And I feel like our program's kind of like that. We've got new parameters, and we're still learning all of the cool ways that we can use those parameters to help kids learn and to create good options for them. So it's just that it just seems like we're just on the horizon of all the great things that are possible in this program. So I'm just really excited to be a part of it.
Thanks, Johnny. And I'm just going to pull out that word I heard you say, options. And I think that's what we're trying to offer here in Cook County is options for parents. We consider our parents and our students our customers, and we're doing everything we can to make sure that there's an option that serves every family in the community. So we're really grateful for what Grizzly Mountain Home Link is doing, and we're excited to see where it goes. I know there's some exciting plans for the future with it, and we know it's going to continue to be great.
Yeah.
All right. Anything else, Johnny?
Nope. The sun's coming out in time for our soccer game in Redmond, so I got to get out there.
Wow. Okay. Well, I think it's kind of raining and snowing still
Yeah.
outside my office window. So have
Yeah,
a
we were
good
getting
time.
that 20 minutes ago here, so don't worry, the sun's coming.
Sun's
Right
on
on.
its way.
All right. Well, you
Dr.
guys
Hoff,
take care.
Did you have anything to add?
You know, not on Grizzly Mountain Home Link, but I know we have some big ticket items and announcements. The governor had that I think press conference at 12:15. So I know we wanted to cover on that because I'm sure we had a lot of parents wondering, got new governor announcement. What does that mean for schools? So I think we might want to touch on that.
Yeah, definitely. We're set to do that. So as you know, in Crook County, we are committed to stay safe and stay open. And it involves a lot of agile work and a lot of commitment from all the staff members. So as you know, there's been an uptick in COVID activity, not only across the state, but right here in Crook County School District. And you know, there's times when the some kind of COVID exposure or even positive COVID test pushes right up against the school district, and we're trying to be super careful and responsive and safe. And so part of what we're going to do today is talk to you about that. I see that a parent or a community member has a question on here about what's going on at the middle school. So we'll address that as we move forward. But I have in front of me here the ODE PowerPoint from our governor and from the Oregon Department of Ed that Dr. Hoff and I were involved in earlier today. So we're going to hit some of those. I don't know, I'm not have a time in the fireside chat to go over everything in the governor's conference today, but some of those things are important to school districts and important to you as a member of the school district. So we are just working to stay safe and stay open throughout this governor's pause. She announced today that there's going to be a 2-week pause in Oregon on social activities to slow the spread of COVID. The 2-week pause does not mean that schools close. Schools are not seeing, if they're following all the precautions that have been laid out, and you can refer to those on our blueprint on the website, but if you're following all of those, we're not seeing the spread directly in schools. And if we are, then we are responding to it through some of the practices that are laid out. I think one of the things that we're really trying to make sure is that there is space in people's local hospitals. So we want to be sure that we are contributing to healthy citizens and healthy students, healthy teachers, and that we are being careful about the spread of COVID and reducing the spread of COVID. So what does that mean specifically for school districts? So one thing that's coming your way for school districts, and also just not for school districts, but for the community, if the governor is asking and the governor's team is asking that if a family or people go out of state, they're discouraging the out-of-state travel, but if a person does, then they're asking that person quarantine and isolate for 14 days to make sure that you are not spreading COVID from from another region and into our region. So we are going to be applying that at the school level in the upcoming weeks and months, that if a family travels outside of the district and a student has traveled outside of the state, right? I'm going to clear that up, make sure that
You can still go to Redmond. You can leave the
you can
district.
still go to Redmond, still go to Costco, right? But if you have traveled outside of the state, we're asking that you switch to some kind of an online format or get the work from your school for 14 days. And just counting those off on a 14-day calendar to reduce the risk of spread in our schools and to try to keep students safe. The people realize how important activity is, so we are not shutting down activities. It's best if we can do activities outside, but if we can't do them outside, there's inside school activities. And we are asking that people mitigate the spread by using our students and our staff are using that 6 foot or more social distancing. We are not having visitors come into the school. The schools will be closed to outside visitors, so that is going to be something that's just a touch different in the upcoming weeks. Dr. Hoff, how about you take it over? My throat's getting dry.
You know, it's always nice to be able to throw it back and forth. So every week we try to keep people updated on the metrics that we are able to stay open under. So here is the most recent metrics. We know that we're seeing more cases across the country, across the state. The state looks at every 2 weeks to see whether schools can stay open. So right now, for the most recent school period, for the last 2 weeks, we've had 33 cases in Crook County and a test positivity rate of 5.8. That puts us in this on-site and distance learning zone, which fits all our current models. So good news on that front, we're still in that. And like everything, we're just continuing to monitor everything very closely. I tell you, I think we talk to our health department, man, it has to be sometimes twice a day. But our big thing is communication, transparency, and keeping students and families and staff safe. So those are our key priorities, and that's what we're going to continue to do and continue to communicate as needed with our families.
Sun's coming out in time for our soccer game.
Sorry, had a little feedback.
What's going on, Dr. Johnson?
All right, so I do want to share that as I'm going, just reviewing the information from the governor, we know that the statewide closure actually begins on Wednesday, November the 18th, and it will run through Wednesday, December the 2nd. So that is when we will really be emphasizing the pieces that overlap into the school district.
But as of now, the schools are not closing, so our schools are staying open and following all those precautionary measures.
We continue to, our awesome facilities and ground staff continue to do really some extra cleaning and some extra oversight of all of the areas that need to be where we need social distancing, such as cafeterias and that kind of thing, library, and make sure that those areas are frequently cleaned, and also that there's ways for students to sit with that 6 foot of social distancing. So one thing I think I should bring up today is there's a lot of talk about how to get our students back into school full time. And it seems to be kind of, a juxtaposition actually when you say, okay, let's get students back full time and we're closing down our community. But we know that we won't be in this situation forever. So we're looking into the future and saying how is it that we as Crook County School District can get our students back full time? So we know that at our high school, there is room to have all of our high school students in a classroom full time. However, the what do you want to say, the bottleneck or the pinch point is really that eating space. So the high school team, they are working on a schedule, an alteration of the schedule. So for second semester, we are hoping that by that time, the activity of COVID will be reduced and that the schedule will allow for all kids to come back Monday through Friday. So that is coming up in second semester, and I know that team is working on schedules and working on all the components that they need to have the students in there. The problem that we are facing as a district is that the middle school building is not big enough in square feet to accommodate all of our middle school students in the building full time. So the board is looking at ways to accommodate more students all at the same time, and they're considering ways that we could have additional facilities. They talked last week about a possible new facility building being constructed right there at the middle school. And with an additional 10 or so classrooms, we could then bring in all middle schoolers full time. So the board is still studying that, and they're still getting ready to make a decision on that. And I am kind of trying to address a question that I have here from a parent that says, or a member that says, what are you going to do with the building next year? And right now, we are looking at how to add additional classrooms at the middle school. And in order to do that, there would need to be some kind of a funding model for that to happen. So, all right, back to you, Dr. Hoff.
Yeah, I would just kind of add on that the spacing issue at the middle school. I think it's one of our older buildings, has been something we've been dealing with for a number of years, especially as we're seeing a lot of growth at the middle school and in the district. So as the COVID 35 square foot per student regulation was put on board, it just kind of amplified that issue. So I know our school board and facilities are rapidly looking at every option and seeing the pros and cons of every option and trying to act quickly. Because I remember one board member saying, you know, we do have single parents out there that are only able to send their kids every other day to school, and the burden we know that puts on families. So we know it's a priority for them to make sure that we're helping families the best we can and getting kids back into school when we can do so in a safe manner. So that's the big thing. I think I'm going to try to emphasize kind of that main point out of the governor's conference, which I think will answer one of the questions. So the biggest overlap from the governor's conference on the new regulations across the state of Oregon that impact schools, the ODE did confirm that they're having schools announce and communicate to families that if students and families do leave the state, that upon their return, the schools will have to ask a question upon coming into the school building. Have they left the state? And if so, they'll have to transition to a comprehensive distance learning for 14 days. So we really want to be as open as possible. We don't want to catch anyone off guard on that. So that did come down from the state today. And that will be, I believe, next Monday, schools will start doing that. So we want to make sure all our families know. We'll send out an email, but that is coming from the state, and that's something that we as a public institution have to follow. So we want to make sure everyone's well aware of that new regulation from the governor. Back to you, Dr. Johnson.
All right. There is a question online about the middle school building and how will that be funded? Would it be a school bond? And it takes about 1.5 years or even longer, sometimes 2 years to put together a school bond. Sometimes we don't have the flexibility to address a funding problem with a school bond. And bonds take time to not only develop, but to publicize and to vote on, and then of course it takes the sale of those bonds to be able to begin to receive funding to build a building. So sometimes it's lagging, the funds are lagging behind what your district and school needs. So I know that's probably not a very thorough answer to that, but if you would reach out to me personally, I would be glad to give you more information on that and to talk more about it. All right. Any other questions? I think it's a good time for questions to come in from our community. I know we're getting a few, but just trying to clarify information and answer questions.
I'm looking on Facebook. I know that.
So schools are open.
Mhm.
Schools are going to remain open. Unless the COVID activity becomes really high and actually begins to impact students in the school. There's times and methods by which we can isolate a few people. And as long as it just remains a few people that are impacted, we can keep the schools open. If it begins to be many, many people, then of course we'll have to look at a different decision. But as of right now, we're able to respond by simply isolating or quarantining those people who have been exposed or who have tested positive.
So I think it's a good reminder just to let families know, continue to, as you have been doing, if your student's showing any symptoms, any sickness, play it safe, stay home, talk with the school nurses, rather than kind of sending them to school when they're on the edge. So just continue to do that. It helps us keep our schools open.
Right now, there's a question, are there any Cook County staff on COVID leave? There is not a Cook County staff that has been identified with a positive COVID case. However, there are 2 staff members at 2 different schools. So one at one school and one at another that have been exposed and are on a leave based upon their exposure, but they are not positive and they are into the quarantine already. So if someone is out, it's still minimal enough that we can bring substitutes in or we can shift the program to another area. But no, right now, are there any Cook County staff out on a COVID leave? And I'm not sure exactly what a COVID leave is. I suppose if the person is actually positive, we do not have any positive staff members or staff members that have tested positive for COVID. Thank God, no, we don't.
And keep in mind, because that might be worrisome to people, like, wait, you got a staff member out, a possible exposure. Keep in mind, we go to the experts, the health department, and they analyze every one of these situations really in depth. They do a lot of this. That's kind of their specialty. So even with all this, it's not what I think, it's not what Dr. Johnson thinks. We really just go to our school nurses and the health department, and they help guide this because they know all the ins and outs of the contract tracing and all that sort of stuff. So it's all on them in collaboration with us to analyze the risk level and make a good, sound decision.
And because we really do want to stay safe, number one, and stay open, if someone is exposed, we ask them to stay out until they know they don't have COVID. We do not want to bring people in once they have been exposed or if they think they've been exposed. We want those people to be out so that we are not bringing COVID exposure into the school. So we're always going to err on the side of caution out of an abundance of caution. We take it very seriously that your children and our community children are here in our school, and we are going to be sure that if someone has had exposure that they're staying out until we know they're safe and we know they're healthy. We think that's the wise thing to do, and we think that that's best for all of our kids, and we really try to make our decisions based on what's best for our kids, and we also want our teachers to be safe too.
That sun Johnny was talking about just started shining in Prineville.
I know. Yeah. All right.
I don't see any other questions. I'm looking on Facebook. Jason and Stacy usually help us out and tell us if there's any questions on any of the other pages.
All right. Anything else, friends?
I'm looking at, just give me a second to double check the other Facebook pages, just in case there is another question.
You know, Dr. Johnson, it's just not the same being next to you in the same room.
I know. I miss you, Dr. Hoff.
I look forward to when we can be together again. It's not a bad substitute being on Zoom, but it's the days, you know, the back and forth when we're together, it just feels better.
We do what we need to do.
We do what we got to do.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't
All right,
see.
friends.
I don't see any other
Stay
questions.
safe.
I think we're good.
Stay open, and let us know if we can be of service to you. Take care, everyone.